I have a glass with some ice.
All right.
And some Jack Daniels.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm gonna pour my drink on pod since we're talking about drinking on the job here.
Nice.
So that's my bit for today.
I'm having a space dust. It's
yes.
Nice.
You had one earlier today too, didn't you?
I definitely did. Welcome to Predator Minute, the podcast that breaks down the 1987 action sci-fi classic Predator 1 minute at a time. I'm Jon Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And today we'll be discussing minute 37 of Predator. Minute 37, you could call it my favorite number of all time.
Ooh.
Yeah. Number 37 in sports. The only sports reference I need to make for 37 is my favorite player, who ever wore number 37, was Peerless Price for the Tennessee Volunteers, their star whiteout.
Wow.
He was the MVP of the very first Bowl Championship Series game when Tennessee beat Florida State for the national championship way back in January of 1999.
Florida State, 5 down linemen. They're going to blitz this time. Here they come. Martin back, steps up, struggles. Going to throw the ball long downfield for Fearless Price. It is complete. He makes the catch at the 45. He's at the 40, 35-30, 25-20. Just give it to him. No flags on the field. 79 yards. Touchdown, Tennessee!
Wow. Why? And now, what's your history there? Why is he your favorite guy?
I just was always a fan, well, number one, of the number 37. He just happened to be wearing it when he played for the Vols, my college team. Just the wide receiver position is always the one that I've been drawn to.
That's
what
awesome.
about you? What if you're playing football back in the day, or visualizing yourself playing, what would have been your position?
Oh boy, you mean besides flattened on the ground?
Yeah, when I played junior high football, that was my main position, was laying down.
What position do you play? Flat
horizontal?
on the floor.
Yeah.
Horizontal position. The position where I have a concussion. Actually, as a kid, I was small, but I was fast. I ran track and cross country and played soccer and other things. So I did have speed and endurance, which made up for my lack of size. So in football, I guess, I'd want to say like running back, but I would have just got pummeled because I was small, but I was fast. So maybe like a kick returner, something like that.
Kick returners are just, you're worried about being flattened. I think they're some of the most destroyed of all positions.
Yeah, but you can also just run out of bounds.
Right, or take a knee.
Yeah, or take a knee, right? Yeah, exactly. Or just let the ball fly into the end zone. So this is why I stayed away from the game of football, because no choice makes sense for me. So
yeah, in the long run, don't play football. That's my PSA.
Right. Yeah, but I love watching football. It's my favorite sport to watch.
It's a good one to watch. Yeah,
I could never play it. It's just too little. So you did you ever play football?
I played just a season in junior high when we first moved to Washington from Tennessee. My dad had me join all these sports teams at school, and I played football for the fall, and made some buddies there, and there's a lot of camaraderie, which I really appreciated about the sport. I didn't like anything really about playing football because, like you're saying, I was just flattened, and most of these kids I'm playing with have been playing most of their lives, and that was the first time I had put on the football pads.
Right.
All sorts of blood, and it's just all drills after drills of like, okay, now you're going to run into each other for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
No.
Back then, especially, like there was no thought of head safety or anything.
No.
It was just like run into each other.
No.
What position did they throw you in?
I was tight end.
Okay.
I was always a blocking tight end.
Right.
There's a few times I'd be a decoy on a pass play, but never thrown to in the few games and the practices we played.
Well, congratulations on your short-lived football career.
Thank you.
I know mine never started. Well, should we start talking Predator here?
Yeah, we should.
Now, actually, you can go ahead and kind of get the minute set up, and then I have a little something to talk about as well.
Alrighty. So minute 37 of Predator opens with Dutch moving through the jungle and ends with Blain sharing a drink and a moment with Mac.
Mac!
Mac, 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 Mac!
And I wanted you to give that opening because we do get a scene here with Blain and Mac sharing a drink. And so, as is the custom, we are usually having a beverage of our choice while we make this podcast, right, John?
That is correct.
Yeah. And I think you have a beer this evening, which is pretty normal. Yeah. And I usually have a beer or a glass of wine if I'm feeling classy. But today, in honor of Blain and Mac drinking out of a flask.
Mac!
Flask!
Flask!
I have a glass here. With some ice. Flask.
Mac!
I have a glass with some ice. And I have a bottle. What do you think? Well, I guess maybe we'll get to it when we get to that part of the minute. But what do you think is probably in that flask?
I think some straight up drank from the South, some kind of bourbon whiskey.
Yeah, that's what I figured too. So I looked in my cabinet and I had some just classic Jack Daniels, old number 7. Jack. Tennessee whiskey. So I'm going to pour myself a little glass of Jack Daniels here.
Jack Daniels.
Go Vols.
Go Vols. Oh, what a nice connection there.
There you go.
And I'm going to be enjoying this through our recording today. So here's to you, Blain and Mac.
Here you go, Blain and Mac.
Mac!
Ah, delicious. Gonna want to let the ice melt a little bit.
So do you want to open us up with what we see in the minute?
Yeah, sure. So we start off here with Dutch doing another little Tobias Fuke impression, popping up out of the jungle leaves there. And then we quickly cut over to Pancho, our friend Panchito, kind of looking back. Back through the jungle, and this starts off a nice little oneer, as we call it. The oneer. And so the camera lingers on Pancho. He walks off kind of towards the edge of a hill, moves down. The camera holds steady while he moves past, and then we get this nice long zoom that goes out into the depths of the jungle. And then it cuts away, and we can talk about the second half of the minute there. So what do you think? What are your first thoughts here on this little sequence?
I don't know if I'm having deja vu or not. I'd have to really go back and look at the first 36 minutes of the movie, which wouldn't be a problem. But when I'm seeing this valley, which I coined Broke Dick Dog Valley, after Billy's recommendation.
Wish this valley on a broke dick dog.
That's right.
I wouldn't wish that on a broke dick dog.
I feel like I've seen this valley in a previous minute, but I can't put my finger on when that would have been. So I'll have to maybe go back and review and see if it's there. But it's I just have this deja vu, and maybe it's just watching this movie so many times.
Yeah,
seeing the one time here is like seeing it all the times I've seen it when I've been watching this movie.
Well, and a lot of the jungle does look the same, right?
Yeah.
So it might be another similar shot somewhere else. But you also have to assume that they probably filmed this mostly in one location in the jungle, just kind of moved around to different areas, but had a close home base. I don't know if McTurnan's ever talked about that.
When it comes to location, he talks about filming near Puerto Vallarta, which I believe that I'm guessing that's where this one is right here, and then the Yucatan later on in the movie when they change locations. I say I'm guessing this one because one of the places or one of the locations south of Puerto Vallarta where they filmed the opening was at the mouth of the river flowing between the mountains into the ocean. And I would imagine if you take that river up, then you're going to be in the valley. So that's my guess here. I'm not really sure. And John McTiernan in his commentary is not talking about locations yet.
Yeah.
My hope is that eventually when we hit the right minute, he's going to say, oh, here's where we started filming in the Yucatan. Because I'm not really sure here because it's looking awful green and I'm not seeing all the dead leaves that we saw like in the camp and before the camp.
Yeah, this does look pretty lush in this scene right here. Yeah. When I first watched this over and over a couple times, I at first thought that we were going to get a zoom here and it felt like they might be zooming in to show us the shimmer or some predator movement. But of course we don't.
Nope.
And And in hindsight, and I don't know if it was intended to maybe make us think that might be happening. In hindsight, it's pretty clearly that he's just trying to show with this camera shot kind of the depth of the jungle and kind of showing that this is where they're headed, and they're heading off deep into the jungle. Yeah. And then you're right, when it cuts, this quick little fade cut, it's clearly supposed to be a little jump in time because now they're kind of walking along the jungle floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they look like, for the most part, they know what they're doing, as we see Hawkins and Panchito, namely, walking through the jungle, making their way. And this is where John McTiernan, on his commentary, was explaining that he put the actors through a mini boot camp, one, to show how they should move together through the jungle, and two, to build community, camaraderie, a sense of history together. And that consisted of many marches over the backcountry of Mexico, with sometimes hikes up to 4 hours long. And he says that it did do a lot of good in that the team members started behaving as if they knew each other from a previous military unit.
Have you ever been on like a long trip, maybe backpacking trip or some sort of team trip like that?
Yeah, I grew up a Boy Scout and didn't quite make it to Eagle Scout. The highest I made it was Life Scout, the penultimate rank. Life Scout. That's the one with the heart. Wow. Heart.
It's like the Zelda patch or something.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, that's a better way to say it. I was thinking Captain America or Captain Planet. Heart. That's a kid with a monkey. Heart.
I'm unfamiliar with that. You'll have to drop that in.
What? Oh my gosh. I don't know how you missed out on Captain Planet.
I mean, I remember the show, but right. I don't remember that specific reference.
All right. No, but yeah, I grew up going to the Boy Scouts from, I think, age 11 to age 18. So,
oh, wow. Yeah. You were committed. Yeah.
I was committed. And my two brothers, Zach and Aaron, are both Eagle Scouts. And yeah, I come from a long line and family of Eagle Scouts. I just never made it to Eagle Scout.
Are you the disappointment at the family reunions? Did they all wear their Boy Scout, Eagle Scout patches?
They all do their Eagle handshakes, and I'm left out. Yeah.
And you stand over by the punch,
holding a heart.
You're right. This is as far as I got. You guys.
Yeah. But we went on tons and tons of hikes. So yeah, you just naturally build that camaraderie over long hikes and sharing food and fellowship and camping together, seeing really awesome sights out in the country together. Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, I've done one, not very many, but I've done a couple like overnight backpacking trips. Or the most notable one is here. We are in Washington State for anyone else listening, and right through the middle of Washington State is the Cascades, and there's an area of the. I know. And there's an area of the Cascade Mountain Range called the Enchantments. Have you ever heard of the Enchantments?
I have heard of the Enchantments.
Yeah, you have to like put your name into a lottery to get a permit to go up there because it's really popular. But I went on a 4-day backpacking trip through the Enchantments one time, and that was really cool. I went with like 3 other buddies, and that was super fun. I've also done. Have you ever done like a ropes course?
I have not. Wait, have I? I think I've been like the adult as some students went on a ropes course once.
Okay. I did a ropes course with my wife and a couple other couples once. My wife. As like, it was a friend of mine that he wanted to like do this for his birthday. So he like had him and his wife and another couple and me and my wife. My wife. And we did a ropes course, and that was kind of fun. And it was same idea. Like I was kind of like cynical about it. I was like, oh, this is kind of cheesy. What are we doing? And then when we actually were going through it, I was like, oh, it really does kind of build like trust with your other people because you have to help each other and communicate and work through each little level, each level kind of has different challenges. Yeah, so that was kind of fun.
Awesome.
It was no Broke Dick Dog Valley, but it was something.
I wouldn't wish that on the Broke Dick Dog.
Yeah, but what is?
Right. You can only aspire to one day hike through Broke Dick Dog Valley.
I wouldn't wish that on the Broke Dick Dog.
Right. Once you go Broke Dick Dog Valley, you just don't go back.
You don't go back.
That's what they say on the ropes course.
Once you break your dick, you're never going back.
I wouldn't wish that on the Broke Dick Dog.
Good. I would hope not.
Yeah, right.
I'm just racking my brain now because I know Sarah and I have gone on some kind of ropes course, like leadership, team building kind of thing. I just can't picture what it was.
Well, it clearly made an impression.
It clearly left a very vague ghost of a memory.
Oh man, this Jack Daniels is the perfect temperature now. The ice is kicked in.
Jack Daniels.
This is perfect. Perfect timing because we're coming up on a little drink and fellowship in the jungle, aren't we?
Heck yeah. So you mentioned the obvious scene cut here to fade us into the next scene as Ponchito makes his way down the cliff. We're dissolved into a scene where Hawkins is pushing through the jungle towards and past the camera. He's wiping some fake sweat off his brow, or maybe real sweat. And
looking tired.
He's looking tired. He's doing some good tired acting. I really appreciate Hawkins, Shane Black going for it here. He even like does little. Okay, now here's where I wipe my sweat. He totally looks like he's hitting a mark after you.
Right. Yeah. Okay, right after the branch, I'm going to wipe my sweat. Yeah. Stare off into the distance.
Like, how do I wipe sweat off? Okay, that's how I do it. I rub my brow and then I walk past. Don't look at the camera. Don't look at the camera.
Oh, I was just going to say, this is another good example of just having a good director for these little throwaway scenes makes a huge difference. Like, he could have very easily just set up a camera and opened up with Blain and Mac talking on the log or whatever, right? And instead, he chooses to push the camera through the jungle while Hawkins moves towards us, and the camera sweeps past him, and then we see Mac and Blain in the background sitting on some logs taking a rest. It just gives you some geography to work with, some depth to the scene. It's really smart. It's a very small little thing, but it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it really does add to the dimensionality, and I know exactly where they are in relation to at least Hawkins. I know that there's people going around and making their way still. So yeah, it definitely adds to that scene building.
Yeah, and we know that they're on the path now. We kind of see that the Hawkins is where the path that Hawkins is taking. And then so right after the camera sweeps around, we just get a cut to a close-up of Blain taking off his jacket, and we get a first kind of real close-up glimpse of his little injury he's got there.
Yeah, it looks like it's grown in size over time.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Yeah, it's time to change that bandage, buddy.
Yeah, like you're in the jungle. It's not hygienic to be going around with an open wound, more or less.
I ain't got time to bleed.
It doesn't look like it's on there very well either. Like it's just kind of like slapped on, like almost like the dried blood is holding the bandage in place.
Yeah, I think before he takes it off, it's hard to tell. Oh no, it's like a sleeveless. It's like a vest he takes off to reveal his MTV tank top.
Yeah. Yeah, that sweet vest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody has their different outfits, and slowly people are starting to like bare the arms.
So Blain and Mac have a quick little conversation here.
Mac!
We have started a tradition of the dramatic line reading. Should we keep it going here?
Yeah, we should.
Okay.
You're going to be Mac or Blain?
I'm going to try my best Blain impression.
Okay.
Go easy, everybody.
Guess I'll be Mac. Mac! God damn. Buddy. Seen some badass bush before, man, but nothing like this.
I hear you. This shit's something. Makes Cambodia look like Kansas.
Que pasa, amigo? Little taste of home.
And scene, and then they take a sip from the flask.
Yeah, Flask. Mac! Maybe drinking some Jack. Mac!
Yeah, probably some Jack. Mac! Hopefully. It's got to be some, like, whiskey, though, don't you think? I mean, that's what you put in a flask.
Yeah, and he says
don't put,
taste
like,
of
vodka
home.
or rum. Yeah, taste of home. Yeah. So I'm assuming it's a little bit of brown, a little bit of whiskey. Yeah.
A bit of brown. I have not heard that one, but I appreciate the lingo.
Oh, yeah, a little bit of brown in the glass.
Dropping some brown in there. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Not to get too vulgar, but I couldn't help but feel like Mac was maybe making a sexual joke at first when he said, I've seen some badass bush before.
Buddy. Seen some badass bush before, man.
That's he's talking about the jungle, of course.
Right. Blain should say, like, makes Christina look like Kansas. Makes Camilla.
Oh, he says, I've seen some badass bush before, man, but nothing like this. Oh, it takes on a whole new connotation.
It really does. Some bush. Yeah.
How often do you think this actually happens? Maybe some soldiers having a little private drinky poo in the while they're on mission?
I reached out to an ex-Marine buddy of mine. He never responded, so maybe he was didn't have something to add there. But when I looked online, just like anything else you look up online, you can find whatever answer you're looking for. Really,
sure.
So you can find some soldiers saying, "Yeah, we totally partied and had little cards, little chits on our card where you could save those up, and each amount of chits would add up to an alcohol or to a cigarette."
One alcohol, please.
One alcohol, please. Delicious. And then some other soldiers go online and say, no, like there's no alcohol in the military. People don't drink on duty. And so I looked up the official uniform. What is UCMJ? Whatever UCMJ stands for.
Let me guess. It's not allowed.
Well, you'd think it would be just straight up not allowed. But according to the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, they have a section, an article detailing this. It says, any person subject to this chapter other than sentinel or lookout who is found drunk on duty shall be punished as a court-martial may direct. Now,
wait, other than sentinel or lookout?
So apparently you can be like a Juan Valdez. Or a Little Smoky. And totally be just drinking.
Just drinking?
Yeah.
Well, now we know why they weren't paying any fucking attention.
Exactly. Juan Valdez was more like, I don't know, whoever, Jose Cuervo in that that lookout.
Yeah, he probably had some warm tequila in a little mug there.
Yeah.
We already know that Little Smokey was probably lighting up a doobie in the bushes.
Exactly.
Little Smoky.
Yeah, so that clears it up. They were all hammered. That's what happened.
All just hammered. And at that point, of like, if you're just hanging out in the camp, why aren't you probably making the excuse like, hey, I'm also on lookout duty. I'm also a sentinel, like Moonbeam walking around. Like, I'm just sentineling around. I'm just having a little purple drink in my canteen.
Purple drink. I love that they make that exception. Unless you're,
I don't know if I love that.
Looking out. Right.
You're the lookout, right? Yeah, but it's cool.
Man. Well, here's to you lookouts around the world.
Jack Daniels.
And mine's empty. Clink.
Mine's getting there. Jack Daniels is good. I don't drink it very often, but it holds up just on ice.
Yeah.
I see why it's so popular. I forgot that I had it. It was like in the back of my liquor cabinet.
Oh, yeah. Good find.
Yeah, surprise booze. My favorite kind of booze.
Surprise booze.
Booze when you're not expecting it. That's the best. That's like that old joke, right? Like, what's your favorite kind of beer? Free beer.
What's your favorite kind of bush? Badass bush.
Badass bush.
Badass bush.
Badass bush.
Meh, but nothing like this.
A little taste of home.
Little taste of home.
All right, so we've done our dramatic line reading. We've talked about drinking in the Army.
Hey, what do you think he means by makes Cambodia look like Kansas? This must be another noodle incident, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, actually. It is. It has to be. There are several times that they reference past missions that they've gone on. And this seems to be one of them because we've never heard them talk about Cambodia before, I don't think.
Nope.
Yeah. So they must have all been in Cambodia together at some time. Yeah. And so Cambodia must have been much nicer than this if it was like Kansas.
Yeah. And when I did research on Cambodia, because I'm taking all these team members to be Vietnam vets, there was heavy involvement of Cambodia in the sense that this proxy war fought between the U.S. and the Soviets by U.S. sending troops to help the Southern Vietnamese fight the Northern Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Were backed by the Soviets. They took it so far as to fight in Cambodia, in the neighboring country of Cambodia, in which part of the Ho Chi Minh Trail went through to help supply the North Vietnamese soldiers. So when he says makes Cambodia look like Kansas, a quick search of Cambodia tells me that he must have been on some American unit, or maybe they're both in some American unit where they're helping fight the Cambodian campaign. And the Cambodian campaign, fun fact, maybe just normal fact, frightening fact, is that's what mainly sparked a lot of the protests in the different colleges here in the U.S., which one of them was the Kent State Massacre, which I believe 4 students were killed confronting the National Guard.
Yeah. So was it because images of that aspect of the war were coming back to the U.S. more more readily, or more like was there just what was it about, or was that like a time of like a major escalation over there, and so people just realized that more and more troops were headed over?
Yeah, it was more on the escalation side, I think, because at this point, the people are tired of the war, and not only is the U.S. not really making any progress, but now they're taking the war outside of the actual country of Vietnam and involving other countries, right? Involving other countries, other peoples, other governments that weren't involved in the conflict in the first place.
Yeah, people are starting to feel like it's going to never end.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Futile attempt or futile mission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's almost like heading off into Broke Dick Dog Valley.
I wouldn't wish that on the Broke Dick Dog.
Well, I mean, it sounds better than Broke Dick Dog Valley.
Apparently, yeah.
I mean, from his words here, it makes it almost seem like he didn't see any action in Cambodia, because from what you hear about Vietnam Wars, it was terrible. It was terrible conflict, and just people have nightmares and don't talk about that war. Whether they're fighting in it or they just like knew someone who fought in it.
Well, to jump back to the end of this conversation here, he puts his little flask of whiskey away. I was going to ask you, because I'm sitting here drinking a glass of whiskey, do you enjoy whiskey? It seems like people either do or don't. There's just not a lot of in between. Are you a fan of whiskeys or bourbons?
Well, this may come as a surprise, but I really like the well drinks. I like where you mix a heavy amount of Coca-Cola or ginger ale into a hard alcohol.
Yeah, no, I really like a whiskey and ginger ale. That's kind of my go-to well drink. But I'll do a little whiskey on ice every once in a while. I'm feeling saucy like tonight.
Saucy. I think last minute I was just drinking one of those airplane shot containers of tequila.
That's right. You're like, I couldn't find anything else.
It was tough, but I made it through.
Yeah, good for you.
Through.
Yeah.
What about you? I mean, you're drinking it straight tonight with some ice. Is that normally what you do when you get found in the back of your liquey cabinet?
My go-to whiskey is Jameson Irish whiskey. That's my favorite, just to have in the house, and I'll usually have that with some ginger ale when I'm making myself a cocktail. But if I'm gonna break out some nice stuff, I usually have a bottle of some higher end whiskey in my cupboard for special occasions. Right now, I have a really nice bottle of a whiskey that's called Redbreast.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's delicious. It's a really smooth sipping whiskey, sipping bourbon, and it's best just on ice. Has a little bit of a smoky flavor to it.
A little smoky.
And it runs about, at least in this area, runs about $50 to $60 a bottle. So on the upper tier, but not crazy expensive.
Right.
So I highly recommend Redbreast if you want to get a nice bottle to keep for special occasions or for any occasion. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Cool. All
right. Well, have we finished off this minute? Is it time to get to the recommends of the week?
I think it's just about time. The last thing I would add is, as Panchito is entering this lush, beautiful green valley, which every time I see it now more and more I'm thinking this must be the Yucatan, just because it's so green, it's so lush. There's no way the team is running down there, the production team, and setting up a bunch of fake bushes to make it look nice, because this is a gigantic valley, and for a sense of scale, you can see when it's zooming in on where you're faked out to think the predator is. You see a couple of waterfalls out in the distance just doing that slow-mo fall of their water. It's gorgeous. It's a place that you would love to visit as a tourist, just exploring the wilderness, exploring nature.
Right. I mean, it's some badass bush, man.
Badass bush.
Some badass bush, but some beautiful badass bush.
Badass bush.
Yeah, for sure. Have you been to Central America? Have we talked about this?
I don't know if I've been to Puerto Vallarta and Cabo and Tijuana.
Okay.
Yeah, those are my experiences. What about you?
I've been to Honduras. So I've been down in the Central Americas. I went to, my wife and I, before we had kids, went down to Honduras and backpacked around the country for like 2 weeks.
Okay.
One time. Yeah, that was a pretty fun adventure. The jungle looks very similar to the jungle we're seeing here. So yeah, it's pretty spot on.
Yeah, Aaron and I talked about this a long time ago, like minute 4 or 5. But when we were college age, we went with my mom and her husband to Puerto Vallarta, and we took this boat, this like maybe hour-long boat ride south of Puerto Vallarta to Boca, I think it's Boca de Tamatlan, where they filmed the opening scene. And now it's like this big touristy village and like an actual town on this really, really steep hill. But we didn't make it as far up the river in the road there to where the actual tourist trap of Predator is. But it is there, I guess. I think we talked about it a few minutes ago too, but there is that kind of tourist restaurant and little swimming hole that people rope swing into that may or may not still be open. I don't know. But we were so close, it turns out, looking back after all these years, thinking, oh, we're so close. And there's even like the little jungle team picture they took of us in front of one of those goofy signs that had, the huge muscle bodies to you. And jungle team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we need to jump to recommends if we're all ready to tell people what to be listening to or watching or wearing, reading or drinking.
I know. I've already recommended some booze. I'll have to recommend something else.
Yeah.
Should I jump right in? Should I go first?
You shall jump right in.
Okay. My recommend is kind of a broad recommend this week, and it's a little obvious for anyone that likes video games. But I recently bought a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, join the Switch.
Yeah. Do you have a Switch?
Oh, I do. Zelda is my jam.
Oh, man. I'm afraid to buy Zelda because I'm afraid it's just going to take over my life.
It shall, so you should.
Yeah. But I started off with Mario Odyssey. And I've been kind of going back and forth with that. And I love the Donkey Kong Country games. And so Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which was originally for the Wii U, they made a version for the Switch, and I've been playing that as well. So my general broad recommend is just Nintendo Switch in general.
Oh man, how have we not talked about this before? Because I don't a lifelong gamer, especially like Nintendo fanboy.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Nintendo. Like I played a lot of video games when I was a kid, and it was always Nintendo consoles that I owned.
Yeah.
I kind of got away from video games in my 20s, but when the Switch came out, I was just seeing all the awesome games that were coming out for it. I had to dive back in, and I am amazed by the design and the engineering of that thing. Like it's truly like a work of art.
Yeah, it is awesome.
It's amazing. Like you dock it, and it's a console for your TV, and then it becomes a handheld. But you can also like configure the controllers in several different ways, and the way they've made it all seamlessly fit together is really, really impressive. So just on a design level, it's an amazing machine. And then on top of that, the games that I've played have been fantastic. Mario Odyssey will go down as an all-timer in the Mario games.
Yeah.
Like, it is pretty, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just imaginative and fun, endless. Like you can just keep on playing it. There's always something new to do. So anyway, if you're on the fence about buying a Nintendo Switch, I say pull the trigger. I was on the fence for about a year until I finally did, and man, I should have done it a long time ago.
Oh man, I'm glad you're on the Switch wagon there.
Oh, it's a good wagon to be on.
I was like so pumped when it came out a couple years ago. I think, is it 2 years now? I think it was about 2 years ago. And I was so wanting one that I went for a scalped Switch. So I found someone on Craigslist who was offering it for maybe like $50 over retail with the game.
Oh, okay.
Zelda game, and met up, and then started playing, and I think I put in, last I checked, 360 hours into Zelda.
Jesus.
It's one of those games where you just pick it up and the world is so giant, so engrossing. There's always something to do or something to try.
360. Oh my god.
And you can complete the game in a few dozen hours, but it's just all the exploring. There's so much to do.
Yeah. Everything I read about it makes it sound amazing. I have some coworkers that have been playing it, and they're like, you got to get it. If you have a Switch, you got to get it. It's the game. It's the best game. So I think I eventually will. I'm easing myself in with a couple platformers, and then I'll move on to an RPG.
Awesome. Yeah, I have other recommends of games. If you want to try those, we can always talk about that. Yeah,
I'll hit you up. Yeah. What do you got for us this week, John?
Well, I watched a horror movie the other day.
What? Do tell. I'm intrigued.
So, going through the old Netflix genres, I thought, and I'll try a horror movie, and
look at this guy.
Look at the first few, trailers of the first dozen or so titles, and like, no, too scary, too suspenseful, too scary. Like, I'm gonna have nightmares. No, can't do it. But then I came across a Stephen King adaptation called Gerald's Game. A book I've always known is out there because I think it's been out there since the early 90s, but never knew what it was about, and then ended up watching it the other day. It stars Carla Gugino and Bruce Greenwood. It plays out as this psychological thriller / bottle episode because the premise is she's handcuffed to a bed for most of the movie. Carla Gugino's character. Am I saying that right? Carla Gugino or Carla Cucino? We'll just say Carla.
I'm not sure.
Carla's character is handcuffed to a bed for most of the movie, and you're going through the different visions that she's having and the different memories. A lot of regretful memories, and then just some kooky, crazy things that she's seeing. I enjoyed the movie because of the more psychological aspect over like just plain graphic violence. There's a little bit of that, but there's not a lot of that. There are still some thrills and some chills. By and large, it's really this one woman's physical and emotional journey, which is weird to say because she's, like I said, handcuffed to a bed for most of the movie through this predicament.
Yeah. Have you... Good pick. Have you ever read the book, Gerald's Game?
I have not, but like I said, it's just one I've known has been written by Stephen King for many, many years. Have you?
I have. I've read almost every Stephen King book out there. I've been reading Stephen King since I was probably too young to read him.
Sure.
And I have a soft spot for Stephen King adaptations. So you've really entered my wheelhouse here, John.
Oh.
A horror movie that's a Stephen King adaptation is like some of my favorites. And this is a good one.
Have you seen this movie?
I have.
Ooh.
Yeah. I watched it right when it came out.
Awesome.
Yeah. So this is a movie that for years and years and years, people talked about adapting to film, but the overall consensus was this could never be adapted to film. There's not enough there. The whole book is her handcuffed to a bed, and it's all in her mind. And what'd you think of the way they kind of get around that? I thought it was really clever how she has, like, without getting too much, I don't want to spoil too much, but she has like an actual dialogue with some of the other characters that she's having visions with.
I really like that. I felt like I haven't seen a ton of Stephen King adaptations, but I felt like this one did a really good job of sounding like Stephen King, especially the end where she's talking, like voicing over everything that's happening at the end. And it's very much like reading a Stephen King novel, which is done to great effect, in those moments. It really, I think, helps calm the viewer and helps like relax you for being a horror movie, but you're not necessarily always feeling scared all the time. You're just thinking, man, it's like this woman's so badass. Like I know she has to make it, right? Like she's just too tough, not just physically but also mentally.
So the guy that directed Gerald's Game is named Mike Flanagan, and he's kind of a pretty well-known name in the horror directing world.
Yeah, I saw that.
So when he picked up this project, people got excited. And they turned out to be right because he did a really good job with this. But if you like this one, I would recommend some other Mike Flanagan films.
Recommend. Nice.
I'm going to recommend on top of your recommend. Yeah. Spin-off recommend. Well, Mike Flanagan... So if you like Mike Flanagan, you can check out some other stuff he's done. I think his best films are Oculus, which is a kind of a movie about a haunted mirror.
Is Oculus, was that the one produced by the WWE?
I don't think so. It's about a mirror in a haunted house that has supernatural powers.
Yeah, it says, the first thing that came up, it says, why was WWE Studios involved with the movie Oculus?
I had no idea. That's crazy. Wow. Oculus is pretty good. And then another one that dropped straight onto Netflix was called Hush. And that is just kind of your classic home invasion story where there's a woman who lives in a house that's kind of secluded in the woods. And someone shows up at the house and is trying to get in. And the twist on that one, though, is that the woman that's inside is deaf.
What?
And that adds yeah. I see what you did there. which adds kind of a whole new twist to that classic
That'd
story.
be chilling.
Yeah.
Because then you probably see the killer and then she's not hearing it, around. Oh, it's terrifying.
Right. So it takes her a while to even realize that he's trying to get in, and he has this creepy mask on, and the whole thing is kind of scary, but it's really good. And then he was also involved with The Haunting of Hill House, the very popular TV series on that.
Yeah, I think you recommended that show a while back.
Yeah. And I'm seeing here that he is also going to be involved with a new Stephen King adaptation called Dr. Sleep, which is the sequel that Stephen King wrote to The Shining.
Whoa, there's a sequel to The Shining?
Yeah, it just came out a year or two ago. It's called Dr. Sleep.
Huh.
He wrote a sequel like 30 years later.
Oh, because that movie/book just doesn't seem like it's begging for a sequel.
It continues on with the story of the young boy, and it catches up with him now as an adult. That's worth reading too. That's a good one. Wow, we really went off on our recommends. That was fun.
Yeah, that was good. Good stuff.
I recommended something that you love, and you recommended something that I love. What's happening here?
North is south, up is down.
Did
this
we
is
just
crazy.
become best friends?
Yep. Yep.
That's awesome. Good recommend segment this week, John. I love it.
Hey, yeah. Oh, and speaking of yep, in that quote, that's John C. Reilly saying yep.
Yep.
John C. Reilly voices Ralph, Wreck-It Ralph, in the 2 Wreck-It Ralph movies. And I was watching those over this week with my toddler daughter, who's home from spring break as well as I am. And he, at one point, Wreck-It Ralph sticks this little gumball talking thing to a flower, and he literally says to the talking gumball, "Stick around."
Stick around.
And I took a screenshot of that and put that on the page. And speaking of the page, you can join the discussion. Let us know about what you think they're drinking in the jungle, or if you had to drink some delicious, delicious beverage in the jungle, what would it be? On the Facebook at the Predator Minute Listeners Palapa. You can also find us on Twitter at Predator Minute, and you can email this show anytime. predatorminute@gmail.com. Jeff, what about you? Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on the Twitter, capital K Carl _ capital H Hungus 314. Come follow me there.
My name is Carl H. Bin Expert.
For my occasional tweets and musings about movies or
video games. Now I can't wait to
read
about your progress when you finally pick up Zelda, because it is just
man, it's inevitable.
It is a masterpiece.
A masterpiece.
I don't exercise. It's a masterpiece.
I keep on not buying it, and then everyone who has a Switch keeps telling me that, what the hell am I doing? You have to buy Zelda Breath of the Wild. So it'll happen. It'll happen.
Buy Zelda.
Yep.
Okay, and for Predator Minute, I've been John Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And until next time,
stick around.
Jack Daniels. Stick around.
Stick around.
Maybe it's the look of the Tennessee hills at sundown. Maybe it's our unhurried way of living down here. Maybe it's our town, our people, or the simple things we like to do. Maybe there's just no telling what the reason is. But since 1866, we've made Jack Daniels whiskey by the same old method here in the hills of Tennessee. After your first sip, you'll know why we always will. Jack Daniels, Tennessee whiskey.